even the very, very first scene. And I remember feeling this because when I put the show on, I was still in the mindset of, one, it's a video game adaptation. Two, it's based on League of Legends.
Yeah.
This is a garbage fire. Like, this is going to be a garbage fire. There's no way it's anything else. Video game adaptations have not gone well. Until now. Welcome to an internet review show, everyone. This is our special episode. I don't know what's funny, if I'm being honest. I have no idea what's funny.
I'm laughing. I don't know.
I know you're laughing.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
I know you're
This
laughing.
is not how we wanted to start. Okay, let's
No, this is good. This is good. This is good. This
No.
is our first one.
no, because
This
we
is
literally
all
said
good.
that we can't start.
Yeah,
so
it's only our
free-form.
second recording of
Yeah,
this too.
the second recording of this
Yeah.
intro, third of this episode.
Exactly.
So let's try this
So
one more
stakes
time.
are low, you know.
Stakes are low, but let's just restart from now. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go, Craig.
Welcome to an internet review show, you guys. On our other show, an internet show, you may know it or not, depending on how you got to this video. We've been trying to talk about movies and trying to talk about shows, but because we're generally focused on just having a really good time and laughing and stuff, we don't ever really do anything justice, and it feels kind of weird to be like, oh, hey, everyone, like, watch this thing, and we're going to talk about it, and then we end up talking about it kind of half-assed before we go off on, you know, one of Anthony's delusional monologues or whatever. This is Anthony,
Yep.
by the way. I'm Craig.
This is
Nailed it.
super. This is
Nailed
super.
it.
I'm so glad I'm here right now. This is great.
So we said on our last episode, we're going to review a show that we both watched and we both enjoyed called Arcane. It's a League of Legends show on Netflix.
Cut to sick-ass clips of Arcane.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
did just now. Thank you, Editor Craig. That was good.
Thank you, Editor Craig.
Arcane. This is a show that, you know, it's getting a lot of traction, and it's getting a lot of traction outside of just the League of Legends community. If you don't know, League of Legends is a video game, and you heard it right. This is a video game adaptation, which, as we know, horrible track record.
Yeah,
Not
for
good.
real.
Where do we start? The Mario Brothers?
That's going way
Have you
back.
seen that? Have you seen
I
that?
think I saw it once when I was a child. Not very good.
Do you remember much of it? You know how
I remember
Bowser's
Bowser
just a
looked
guy,
like
the bald guy?
Bowser. I remember Bowser sucking. That's
And
what
then
I recall.
Yoshi looks like a velociraptor kind of.
Yes, I do. These are all really
That's a weird
very
show,
bad.
man.
Don't do Mario live
Yeah.
action, maybe. Or if you're gonna,
Do it
have a higher
better.
budget. Yeah,
Have
have
a little
a
better. Don't make
yeah.
Bowser just a man.
I
So
don't
I mean,
know.
you got like Warcraft.
Yep.
No good.
Was there a
Although-
Halo movie?
They teased the Halo movie. I think there was like a series somewhere.
I'm trying to think of movies.
Never-
There was Assassin's Creed. That one wasn't great.
Not very good. Very
Um,
convoluted and not very coherent.
Yeah, very not. You said the word convoluted, and I don't need to add anything else.
The point being, video game adaptations have not gone well until now.
there was
This is-
Operation as well.
Operation was a
No, there wasn't an Operation movie.
it's not even a video game. That's literally a board game.
Anyways, until now.
Nice.
Fuck.
Until now, Arcane has come out, and I think it's been pretty much unanimously well received.
Very
the
good
ratings
show.
are extremely high, and it is for good reason. This show is it's sort of based on League of Legends lore. If you don't know what League of Legends is
Means you're not a nerd, and
yeah.
that you don't play the game and you have a life.
You
Because
actually-
Craig said it's a video game. It's more of a lifestyle. He can attest to it firsthand.
yeah.
Me, not so much. So if you're coming here as somebody who hasn't, played this game before,
game.
then you should, take my word for it. Yes, very much. You don't need to play the game to enjoy the show whatsoever.
Yes. So, and hopefully the idea is that you've already watched the show.
If you haven't, go watch.
You should go watch it before, because we are going to get into spoilers. We're
Pause right now. Go and watch.
Exactly. It's only like 6 hours of your time. Just go. I'm sure you have that much time. If you're here watching this, you obviously have time to go do that.
And then come right back here, and you'll know exactly what we're about to talk about, because spoilers going on from here on point.
Yeah.
Wow, can't talk.
So generally, just right off the bat, how did you feel about the show?
I quite enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
not just because, and you did a good job of selling it by not over or underselling it. It was perfectly sold.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. I
You're-
appreciate that.
You're very welcome. That's the only compliment you're going to get for the rest
Oh,
of the
okay.
review.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was very well done in terms of the animation, which we're going to get into. But the animation, the story, the writing was beautiful. I got nothing to say about that, but good things. Well, not nothing, but mostly good things to
Yeah.
say
Well,
about it.
there's some minuscule things. or,
Very
like,
few
some
drawbacks.
details that maybe were fumbled a little bit, but I think overall the show just is like quite surprisingly solid across the board. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, the animation style. I don't know if I've ever seen an
Wow.
animated series done in this exact, like, it's very stylistic, but it's also just like it goes down real easy. Like, it's
very
easy
unique
to watch, and it still the movement, everything is really nice. It kind of reminds me of, it's not exactly the same as this, but like Into the Spider-Verse,
Yeah.
where you're watching like a somewhat unique style of animation, but it just feels like everything you want still.
It's very much its own thing.
Yeah,
and it was. Yeah, like it fit perfectly, I guess, like with the story that they were trying to tell and kind of the overall style of like the show. I think the animation fit very well because it is a darker show. Like it's not a kid's cartoon. It's not something that I would put on for my little cousins or whatever like that. Like it's something that has very adult themes, and the animation I think matches that tone quite nicely.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, you get like honestly some of the best writing I think I've seen in a show in quite some time. Like insanely good writing for both characters, plot, the world building. Like the writing is definitely a huge standout. They care about the details in the writing. They earn stuff for their characters. There's a lot of plot lines that all converge very nicely. They play a role with each other while still being independently important and stuff. That's hard writing to do, and it's not really what you'd expect from a project like this. So
few things feel forced, and I think that we kind of talked about our expectations going in because it's a video game adaptation. And like I think that's probably a pitfall that other shows or movies that have come from video games have fallen into because because there's so much information out there about these things for a lot of viewers coming in. There's that feel to kind of push things. I would imagine
a little bit of fan servicey stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And nothing really felt forced. It all made sense. Like even when as we've talked obviously about the show before coming and doing like the review here, like nothing really felt forced. Everything felt earned and it all kind of made sense and was plausible. Even when you go back and you're like, oh, well, what about like this, and that, and the third? Like you didn't really have too many times. You're like, well, where did that come from, right?
I think that's a really good point too, because if you look at the characters that they do include in the show, I think I told you this, but like Vi, who's arguably one of the main characters,
for sure.
Like in the game, she's got voice lines that are pretty cringy, like. What is it?
Punch first, ask questions while punching.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, so if we bring that into the league, it's gonna be, into the show, it's kind of like, oh, that's like pretty low.
Imagine if she did say that, like just
exactly. That's
just like in that like end of Act 1 fight scene, as he's like doing this shit, she's like, punch first, ask questions while punching.
See, like, and like the thing is, like, that would almost be on brand for her character in the show, but it would feel really dumb. It's like they kind of kept that essence of the character, but then expanded and made it way more interesting. Like Vi is a super awesome character in my opinion. I think she's consistent throughout the whole show. She's just super satisfying to watch on screen, especially when she's fighting, because obviously her fights are all the best. Super sick. I think she's got the best fights, and I think they purposely made it so she gets because she's got like 4 or 5 scenes where she's fighting either one person or multiple people, and it's just like,
damn,
it's really well choreographed, very sick. There's good voice acting on all the characters. There's you really could just go on about how, if you look at any like individual aspect of what makes a show good, they did a pretty bang up job on every single thing. I can't really like identify what overall department they like slacked in. I think everything was pretty tight across the board.
Well, why don't we save our qualms till the end? Yeah, because we'll nitpick them at the end.
Well, there's like smaller things in the story that I think we can criticize, but overall, I think everything was just really solid.
I think overall, I think you had mentioned maybe you didn't like the score, but again, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I do remember it standing out a lot more in Acts 2 and 3, but less so in Act 1. I think that might be the only, but maybe overall it might have been their biggest kind of lackluster.
I agree. I think the music at times is especially when it's like non-vocals. I found that every time they bring in a song with vocals in it, it just felt like almost like a brand deal or like some sort of artist collaboration.
You sit here and tell me you didn't love the Imagine Dragons right now. You sit here and tell me you didn't love that scene. You're sit here and tell me
that I had the opposite of love for that.
You're sit here and tell me that you didn't love
I actually
green-lit, shirtless fucking Imagine Dragons.
I was like, why are we getting a band plug in the middle of our like very serious show about class struggle and war? And
I think you're a hater.
Maybe I'm a hater, but
I think you just hate
I didn't love the theme
song,
and I'm not a big Imagine Dragons fan. I just felt like every time it felt a little cheesy to me using some of the songs they have, because they were songs that like felt like they want to kind of market those songs as well, like they're going to use it as sort of a thing to pump up League, and they just don't really fit super great. But I would say that some of the actual scoring, where it's just like instrumental music, especially with like the fight scenes and stuff, pretty good all around. So that's definitely a complaint, but you know what? Whatever, it's minor. Theme song sucks ass garbage. We'll survive. Okay, we'll survive. So the show is broken up into 3 acts, as you know. Act 2 and 3 kind of go together as the continuation of earlier events that happen in Act 1. There's a time skip between Act 1 and Act 2. Act 1 is kind of covering the launching points for some of the characters, the main characters, particularly Jinx, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest one where it's like, this is why she's the way she is. It's essentially what we're getting in Act 1.
Violet as well.
Vi definitely has less of a change between Act 1 and 2, I think, overall. Like what?
Fair.
Like you mean
for
like
sure.
in terms of her
sure.
character and
for
who
sure.
she is.
Of her
Like obviously,
character.
like things happen to her.
Yeah.
She ends up in prison for like many years, and she goes through some shit. But in terms of like how she behaves, she's pretty consistent throughout. I think all 3 acts.
I would agree.
The big change that you see, I think, is probably Jinx, and then maybe characters like Echo as well.
Echo, Jace, maybe not from 1 to 2. I
Jace
think
actually does.
From like 2 to 3, I would say.
Yeah.
He has, actually, honestly, from 1 to 2 to 3, there's significant changes that I'd say he faces like as a character, because we see him go from like boy wonder to politician to corrupt politician, which is very. You don't like Jace like
by the end.
Yeah, but at first you're very much rooting for him and Victor.
Yeah,
like Victor especially, just a fucking down homie. Like
definitely. When Jace is kind of feeling that under. Well, and I guess we could also say there's multiple plot lines. You know, there's this Undercity, Piltover. Piltover being like the upper city, which creates this big class struggle, and that's sort of what we're watching, right? It's like the Undercity of Zon. You got all this, horrible living conditions, people addicted to drugs now. Like, things are really just going to shit. In the first act, we have kind of the leader down there, Vander, super sick character, ends up, dying, basically, as far as we know. He's dead.
Seems pretty dead. He seems pretty dead.
Yeah, and then as soon as that happens, it's sort of like the whatever crumbling structure was there that was kind of keeping Zon and Piltover in good books together is now gone. And then that's sort of Act 2 and 3 is we're watching the full-on crumbling of their relationship.
Exactly.
On the brink of war, all this stuff.
Well, because once Vander goes down, it creates a natural vacancy for Silco to kind of step in and be the underworld kind of kingpin that he ends up being in Acts 2 and 3, which again sets up like this whole Nation is on kind of conflict. And even their relationship in and of itself turns out being like a metaphor for what goes on between Jinx and Violet for the rest, or at least not for the rest of for like this show, but what they set up moving forward, that it's going to be, this Violet being like Silco Violet being like Vander and Jinx being more like Silco. I mean, she literally
really nice parallel
gets taken
there.
under her or his wing. Jesus, I'm messing up pronouns and names.
No, it's all good. You're doing great.
Thanks, man.
I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it. Hey, you know what? It's those boosts that make me come here and do this.
Good.
I wouldn't have the confidence to.
I think that's a really good point, actually. Like, there is that. And it's pretty on the nose that they do this, but there's like the dynamic between, and they actually show parallels too. I remember there's like the scene where Vander is holding Silco's neck, and then it cuts to Jinx having her face squeezed by Vi in the same line. So it's like they're obviously parallels for each other, right?
Of course.
They're obviously being set up that way, which is really cool. I think they did a good job of that. So you get this. Act 1 follows this story that's mostly in the Undercity, right?
Yep.
Where Jinx, Vi, and their gang have messed up a job when they're going to steal stuff. They get a hold of, and that's the other thing too, is like it all ties into Jace's story too, where they steal this gemstone from him, and it gets him busted for him working on stuff that he shouldn't have been working on. And then from there, the enforcers from Piltover are causing a lot of problems in Zon, which causes more unrest that Vander's trying to keep on the low. Silco's kind of trying to bolster that, right? Yep. And then it all comes to a head when, Vander gets killed. And then now Silco's in control and kind of ready.
By Jinx. Powder, but Jinx, same. Fucked up scene. Didn't see that one coming.
I know,
I guess we could take a second to kind of talk about that.
I agree. I think that's like a huge highlight. I think a huge highlight of the show is just that gut punch that you get at the end of the first act. It's kind of like, it does a nice job of setting the tone for what they want in the show too. Of like, we're actually gonna get serious. We're gonna kill characters. We're gonna make this pretty high stakes and have these characters play a really big role in what's going on. I think they did all of that really well. You get Powder into the situation where she gets essentially traumatized and sets her character off on this pretty wild trajectory of becoming more evil and unhinged. And
More so unhinged than I would say evil, kind of
Interesting.
wrapping up by being evil. I think by the like,
she
she's
does some
always
pretty
kinda
evil
seemed-
stuff, though.
for sure. Like, but by the end, but I guess like
Yeah.
what else? I mean, whatever.
She just
we'll get
kills
into it.
like she just murders some people at one point. Remember, she like
No.
she
No,
you
that's
know,
fine.
Yeah,
That's
well,
fine.
they're like
That's fine.
the Piltover pieces of shit.
Yeah,
you know,
fuck
those
'em.
rich guys. Up
Exactly.
There. Yeah,
We're talking about class struggle. There's them
Yeah.
down here and them up here. Nobody gets mad when you punch up. It's punching down that causes the issue, man.
You know what? You're right.
I
You're
am
absolutely right.
I
So
am
she's
right.
punching up,
Exactly.
and therefore can essentially murder whoever and never really be classified as evil.
I don't see why it would ever.
I feel like that's the way people actually feel, though. People really
Truly.
like Jinx in the show, and
I
they
know.
really don't really see her as like an evil character. They see her as someone who's been damaged and horribly traumatized over a lifetime of losing her parents, living in Zon.
I fall into that camp for sure.
Yeah,
That's-
you're a Jinx fan.
That's
yeah.
me. I
Nice.
did appreciate Jinx. I mean, not just for those reasons. Also, I think she was just like a very dope character. Like overall, if we talk about
Yeah.
like one of my favorite scenes, other than that end of Act One would have been in Act 2 when like she goes back to like their little hideout, kind of where like shit all kind of hit the fan. Like the last time she was like with her family, she does that scene where she's going up against that punching bag thing that like that Vi was always using.
Huge
And
standout scene. For
Very
sure.
very
Yeah.
dope scene. I think highlighted her like most I guess her combat like dopeness, but how like she's very different than Vi, but kind of gets like the job done the same. And to me, what wraps up being very dope is when she ends being second place to Violet, very fitting, obviously. But then rather than trying to get that extra hit in, she pulls out her gun and just shoots the thing in their face. I was like, dog.
Kind of
Very sick character.
Very sick.
Very dope. You
Yeah.
can't hate on it.
You know what? That's actually that scene too is another good example of just like when you talk about like more stylistic animation. That's a scene where it's like there's jump cuts between people. It's like you're not just seeing what's happening. You get all these like sort of internal thoughts of Jinx. Like it's really cool like that. I think another good example of that is the scene where Echo, when he's an adult, approaches Jinx on the bridge. And he drops his stopwatch, and you get like that cool. You get like I think that was one part that was really good music. I thought was cool. You get like
What was going on with the stopwatch? I did not understand that whatsoever. Like it was never hinted at before.
okay. Well, I'm gonna say like this
until
is
then.
spoilers. Those will be spoilers for you because you don't play the game, and this will be spoilers for people at home who don't play the game. So just be warned.
Spoilers.
Essentially, Echo's character in League of Legends, he uses like Hextech gear that allows him to manipulate time. Like his whole thing. I'm pretty sure in his lore, his whole thing is that he wants to bring back his friends, which is really cool because that's implying.
heartbreaking.
It turns out the friends might actually be the friends that Jinx killed in the first act too.
Wow.
Which is really cool. So his whole thing is like, yeah, he becomes like a pretty sick fighter. He got his little those hover skateboards.
Those
man,
are so
fucking
sick. Those are so dope.
Yeah, those are dope.
But like, hey, I think so. I mean, I don't think there's really need to kind of wait till the end for our qualms. It makes sense if we kind of just talk about them as they come up.
Let's talk about
That
our
was
qualms.
one of my not so favorite parts about the show was I think Echo and kind of how his character was like represented, and that being one of them. Like, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of like build up towards him being like this super battle hardened leader guy who's leading this whole like society in this oasis, and it's like you knew it was gonna be him throughout Act 2, and then like when his face gets revealed, you're like, obviously he was gonna be this dude.
Yeah.
But then they have that moment where like the stopwatch. It just didn't really seem like they put a whole lot of like investment into him in like the early stages of the show, and then you get to him at the end, you're like, oh, this dude's super badass, but like why? Whereas everyone else is like everything kind of makes sense,
I do completely agree with you here. I think there was a little bit, especially with Echo. Echo's a really cool character. Like the concept, everything that he's doing is really cool.
For sure.
But in terms of like you look at the way that and you know what? To be fair, they don't have time to do every character equal level of justice.
Of course.
They had their main plot lines with like the Jace Victor stuff, Vi, Caitlyn, and then Jinx, Silco, kind of like in the later halves. Like that's what you see the most of. So I do agree. Echo kind of shows up, and you're like, well, we didn't really see what he went through at all, in fact. And he's now playing a pretty integral role in what's going on. And he's also like kind of crazy fighter now and all this stuff. None of it was as
super
earned.
badass.
And I think this is maybe where they kind of overstepped, knowing people who play the game will be watching the show, because I think everyone who plays the game will be like, oh yeah, like we expect Echo to be like this.
Very dope
Because
ass character.
he plays a role in the game, and he's like, yeah, he's a cool character in the game, whatever. But I can totally understand if you didn't play the game and have the context for what he's capable of doing in this video game, then it makes it kind of weird how, he ends up just being this guy that can...
Yeah. And like
beat up Jinx, who's like shown to be like really crazy good,
like
you know?
as strong as Vi, right? And so
it's
like
kind of sick when he also like
it was, and like I obviously was very aware that you can't give equal time to everybody like on screen and like their backstory and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to think about it like with a like grain of salt, but I was like, you know what I like and kind of think of like what I maybe would have liked to see have done differently. I think what I came to is like maybe in those early like Act 1 scenes, like when it's Vander and like because basically I know his like he was like the shopkeeper's basically like up like apprentice, like that's kind of what I got from it. And
he literally was. Yeah,
he
was learning under that guy and working for him, whatever.
Which is a sick ass storyline, and so like it makes sense why he turned into this dude. Like when you consider that, but it just felt like there weren't enough stakes put on like the shop owner's kind of role. Like he just seemed like I can't remember his fucking name. So
he does have a name. I don't remember
exactly. So like to me, he's kind of like a nothing character, which makes like what happened to Echo kind of also like not seem like nothing, but like again not very like there's no like not stakes, but like
you don't get to know the inciting incidents that set him on this, other than what happens to like our main characters. But I wasn't really convinced by Echo's
transformation.
Well, yeah, and just like his like what was we didn't really know what his relationships were. Like he comes and talks to that group in the first act, and he like tells them some stuff. He talks to Vi. He's obviously like friends with them, but like I don't feel like we get the best idea of like how close is he with them? Like, how much is this actually going to affect him? Why does it affect him this way? With that said, I wouldn't be surprised if Echo is going to be one of the characters that they take a much bigger stab at for the second season.
That'll be very dope. I mean, because there's definitely going to be a second season. Well, obviously, if this is successful enough, which it appears to be.
There's already a trailer out for the second season, or not a trailer, but like
teaser?
an announcement thing of like we're doing season 2.
Sick.
Because it did pop off. Dope. The show popped off. And
but I mean, people obviously are going to relate to things like like as you said, like already this class struggle, this thing that's going on between Vander and Silco, and obviously this whole underground like drug ring that was going on. Like everything's like very cool, and and I think a lot of it does come, I guess, from like Silco, I guess, like as a character, him being very dope as a villain, somebody you don't like very much, and we don't get a whole lot of, I guess, in like the first act, but acts 2 and 3, very much he is
Silco. Yeah, well, Silco has a really big part at like the very end of Act 1, where it's like
exactly.
And it's cool with Silco too. I think is he kind of comes in. I just remember thinking like when he first showed up, I was like, oh, here we go. Now we're on track with like a very generic sort of anime type thing where it's like here's our villain who's like a cartoonish evil guy.
And he's a fucked up eye.
He's got a cool void eye and all this stuff. But then like as you get more and more, it's like you realize he's got like tons of history in Zon of him trying to do stuff with Vander. They were probably part of some resistance. Like the scene that you get at the start, for sure Silco had some role in this, like where they're storming the bridge of Piltover and stuff. I think all that's really cool. You get like a pretty rich character with a lot of depth and like desire. What he's trying to do, everyone can agree, is like, well, the way he's doing it is obviously messed up, but at the same time, everyone in Zon has gotten really desperate. Someone who actually wants to make a change rather than just like
stand by and
because Vander's approach is literally like, let's just not start war and get people killed. Let's just make the best of what we have. Silco's kind of like, fuck that. Let's go get some shit, Let's make life better and take it,
I very much
comes
saw
at
it.
a cost. So
I very much saw it as like the classic. It's been done like time and time again. Like the two men who are working towards like the exact same cause, but from very different kind of like sides of the coin. Like you think of, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and you think of Professor Xavier and Magneto, and then it's the exact same thing. It's been done time and time again, and will be done time and time again.
It's very satisfying to watch.
It's very good to watch,
exactly.
and they do it very well here as well, and make it so like both sides are not like you see the
it's like both sides of the same coin kind of thing.
I mean, I did just say that.
Yeah.
So like you could just like let me finish the sentence.
Well,
and
it's
then
okay.
maybe
I'll probably edit the part out where you say it. I might take that one.
You might just take that
I
one.
might
for
take
you.
that one. Yeah.
Hey, honestly, it would be par for the course on this show. I mean, maybe not this show, but for sure on the other show.
And you know what? That would honestly be par for the course for this show. I'm taking that one too.
Oh, so we're doing it here as well.
Edit that one out as well.
All right.
But this is pretty much par for the course for that show. Yeah.
Par for the code.
Par for the code for that show.
Exactly. So it is.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
We will.
Earlier, I mentioned that there's a good amount of attention to detail in this show, and it's interesting because there are like there's tons of like callbacks. There's some good foreshadowing. Even the very very first scene, and I remember feeling this because when I put the show on, I was still in the mindset of, one, it's a video game adaptation. Two, it's based on League of Legends.
Yeah.
This is a garbage fire. Like, this is going to be a garbage fire. There's no way it's anything else. But honestly, the opening scene in this show
set the tone.
You don't see what's going on, but you hear Powder singing this kind of creepy, eerie tune on this like fiery, smoky bridge. Super beautiful, very intense right off the bat. You're like, I just remember like right away being like, whoa, this is like not at all
very dark.
Yeah, it's very dark
overall,
and it's actually just like a fantastic scene. And I'm saying this more so after watching it the second time, because when you watch it the second time, you get this thing that happens, and everyone should remember, where it's like Vi and Jinx are kind of wandering around, confused, scared, everything's spooky, what's going on, and then they look over in this direction. It cuts into like a woman's face, presumably their mother, who's here helping fight the battle that they've realized is now definitely dead.
Yeah.
So they witnessed it, and it's cool because you actually get these little cutaways. As I think it's mostly from Powder's perspective in that scene, because you get these cutaways where she's looking at stuff and you start getting like the little scratched in and like affecting like the when she gets more unhinged later on. She has all these effects where she's talking to other people that aren't there and stuff. And you get like these scratchy, like just flashy effects. A little heavy-handed with it later on.
I was gonna say,
but they at least set it up. Like they set it up where it's like, hey, look, this is part of her trauma that gets her here. You don't realize it the first time because it's hard to remember, but you've seen it. Like, I kind of appreciate them putting in some rewatchability there and something to pick up on when you're watching it. It's like, yeah, they foreshadowed it. They were saying that this is part of what makes her traumatized and like this later on. So I thought that was like just an amazing scene. And then there's so much world. Like, sorry, I could go on about this first scene for so long, because there's also like, you get the scene of Vander. He walks over, he's beating the shit out of someone, and then he feels bad. It's like, okay, there's the start of their relationship. Bam. Yeah. No word spoken, by the way, during any of this, but bam, we get the start of their relationship. You get Vi, she shows her little flex, like she's like, I'm ready to fight too. There, we get a piece of information about how Vi acts, because that's how she does it. You know, she's always a fighter. Then you get like this zoom out shot of like this massive, beautiful city behind all the smoke. Bam, we get the class struggle. That's like the first scene, no dialogue, just like cool visuals, and we already get all this like massive world.
So out of 10, what are you giving that scene then?
I think that's like the scene of the show.
That's like your favorite scene? That's fair.
in terms of like it's. Just in terms of like the actual like craftsmanship of that and like how well they did it, I think that is like the best scene. I think there's obviously scenes that are maybe more entertaining. Like, yeah, I gotta love when Vi goes onto the bridge in the first act and beats up like 4 guys and then gets beat up.
That slow motion uppercut, come on, son.
Like, that's the sickest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
But just in terms of like how much effort they came out right at the very beginning of the show, we're like, we're gonna make this good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were like telling people essentially right off the bat. And I think they did a good job of that.
I had a question for you, and then I lost it, so we're gonna move on.
To what?
To I don't even know. But no, I guess I know what I want to say. I guess I want to say Act 3, because we haven't talked about Acts 2 and 3, because we talked about the beginning, them as kids, and then in the middle, we see Vi come back into now Jinx's life. Yeah. Silco using her as a pawn, as you mentioned, the whole little scratchy voices in the head thing, right? And we kind of see like this struggle now, this internal struggle for Jinx, which is going to kind of be kind of the ongoing thing for Acts 2 and 3, which makes sense. And I would say they also set up kind of from the jump with, again, like the trauma and her losing Violet and Vander, and then Silco coming in. To me, I saw him very much as a master manipulator, and I know he kept
strings.
Yeah, because like he does the whole thing where he's like basically saying that that she's his daughter and that he loves her and all that kind of stuff. But to me, it seems very artificial and like top layer and like not very deep of a relationship. At least
even by the end, do you feel that way? Like, because at the end, there's like
by the end,
I never would have betrayed you or whatever. Like he says that thing of like, I would never have done this to you.
I guess the vibe I got was like she had earned that after years, but that like the relationship did not start there with him caring about her. That's the vibe I got when he went and picked her up in that back alley. I think it molded to him like loving her like deeply, but I think again, is that because he loves her as a person, or because he loves the fact that she can get shit done for him?
I was going to say maybe it's because she can play a role in what his grand vision is.
Exactly.
I think what you're talking about right now, though, is something that applies to like many of the character relationships in the show. Is like the character relationships are super complex.
They are.
Jinx and Silco, like they got a bunch of people in Silco's crew that are like constantly unhappy with Jinx and how he like kind of plays favorite with her and stuff. But at the same time, she's also like more badass and more useful than a lot of the other people. So it's like this complex thing of he wants to, and he's always kind of defending Jinx in a way that makes it feel like he obviously has some sort of most of the time the way Silco operates is always like through the lens of we got to get this crazy thing done with our whatever the serum, the shimmer serum. Like they're trying to do some sort of takeover. Like they have a big plan of they got to keep making money and they're going to do some takeover. Like that's sort of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of allows Jinx to interfere with that more so than any other of his goons or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he gives her a free pass on all this stuff.
She
So
seems like his right-hand man. Like,
yeah, but do you think that points towards maybe some sort of like more loving relationship that goes outside of the...
No, I think it points towards more like trust. At least that's what I got from it. Is I was more so trust that, again, she had earned from being basically his right-hand person for however many years, right? Yeah. And then also why she ends up being like in the position that she's in kind of by the end, where she's in this whole kind of internal struggle between, do I go with former Powder side and Violet and my friends and the voices that are in my head, or do I, keep it safe with Silco, my new surrogate father figure? Oh, I used fucking quotation marks there. He definitely is her fucking father figure, but
yeah.
And a scene that I know you had your qualms with, but I really much enjoyed. I know
Which is this?
The end table scene. I know it was quite Joker-like, and I know you didn't like that whole shit and all the shit she was doing, but I liked it. I thought that they set it up. I thought that it made a lot of sense, and I didn't see that ending coming.
So I would say that like overall that ending is good, and I think there's a pretty good scene. I think what I didn't like, and this is very specific.
Okay.
Jinx in that last scene tells Vi essentially that Vi has to choose.
Yes.
But then like because of what happens, that does I wanted to actually see what Vi was gonna choose.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious because like obviously Vi would want to choose Powder.
You think?
But like maybe I don't know. I was kind of curious to see if like
that's choosing Powder over like Zahn
yeah.
and like Piltover, like basically.
I know, and I think there could have been something cool. It's like, Vi chooses Powder, then Jinx is like, well, that's impossible, or something. Powder's dead, something like that.
Bang!
Something like that. But instead, they just don't even get the choice. She's like, you're gonna choose for me, and then just never happens. She's like, I'm choosing, and I'm Jinx, and then I start a war.
Yeah,
that's kind of what she does.
Boom.
Which, maybe I want to see more. I feel like Jinx is a very loaded character in terms of she's got a lot of trauma. She's got like very erratic behavior. I think when we see more and it kind of settles in a little bit more, it was hard to see. And I know a lot of people like Jinx, and a lot of people like older crazy Jinx.
Yeah,
but
I'm one of them. So
you are
one
of them.
So tread lightly.
And I agree. There are some very cool parts.
Okay,
but what I'm saying.
What are you saying? Be careful.
Get beat up here.
Yeah, be careful. My fists are clenched.
I think
punch first, ask questions while punching.
I think it. Yeah, exactly. I think it was hard to see Jinx go from being Powder, who's like the shy, sort of timid, not very like goofy at all character.
Yeah.
In the first act, then going through like a number of traumatic events and living a hard life and all this stuff, and then we get this time cut. It's like, okay, adult Jinx is kind of nothing like young Jinx.
I mean,
other
slightly
than
unhinged. I mean, they
Powder
did
isn't that unhinged.
They foreshadowed it with that, like with that crying scene, which is pretty irrational considering, like,
and she's like screaming, and like the twisting violins,
and
good scene
and
for sure.
it's like very, very hysterical, like for like any child, I would say. And like before that, you hadn't really seen too much like provocation of Powder to even see that kind of side come out. And so you see it with like a very minor thing of like, hey, like you stay here so you don't fucking die. Yeah. And she loses her shit, ends up killing her entire family. So I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know.
But once again, I think that was like that was a good scene when she does have like the really unhinged moment. It was like we see the side to Powder that's like kind of like like all of a sudden it's like a little more creepy and kind of and weird. But I just don't think that like really lined up with who she ended up being in the later episodes. Not necessarily in a bad way. I think there was maybe a little bit of they kind of had where the character. This is my best guess. They had where the character needed to go based on the games and like what she was going to be, and they had that as the starting point. And then they kind of were a little loose with the transition to get over there.
That's kind of like everybody though.
Yeah,
I feel like
for sure.
And maybe they just did better with other characters than they did with her, and that's kind of what it is.
Well,
I still liked it.
I know. As we see more, I'm sure it's like I'm pretty sure Jinx will always be a very cool character and will always be playing a sick role in this stuff. So I think as we get to see her more, I just think I want to get more used to the way that she behaves in especially in Act 3. Because Act 3, even in Act 2, she's like got some powder in her. I can see more of like how I kind of expected her to behave, which was like I still want to see Vi. I can cool it down. The blue flare. Bad scene, guys. That's a dumb. That's a boo scene.
Like, we didn't like that one.
It's just a little too forced to be like. And here's this blue flare.
And with the music in the background.
I will always come find you.
The music in the
like,
background.
what do you know? Drone shot, epic drone shot.
Wind going
It
through
was
her hair.
a little cringe, guys.
A little
if
much,
I'm being
okay?
honest. That was just like
Tone it down there, Michael Bay.
not subtle. Yeah, and very not subtle. It's
Yeah.
like this big thing, and it just didn't. If I'm just being honest, it just didn't have that big of an impact. I was like concerned about a lot of like you kind of knew they were gonna meet up.
Mm-hmm.
They were heading that direction anyways. They're like in the same place, and then it's like the blue flare comes. So the blue flare didn't really serve much of a purpose in terms of Vi really connecting.
It was just really a callback.
It was just a
that
callback
to that
and it was,
first act.
It didn't feel nearly as important as the other stuff that was going on at the exact moment that it happened. You know?
Exactly.
So
Okay, so that's
not my favorite.
Can we put a neat little bow on the Nation is on then and kind of
Yeah, let's talk about some Piltover stuff
Yeah,
because
100%.
that's they're very different. Like the Zon stuff is all very actiony and very like. I mean, it completely different visuals and everything. And you go to Piltover, it's like this clean, organized, gears everywhere.
Yeah.
They've used Hex Tech to create portals. Like they're like super advanced. It's like very opposite of.
And like it starts out not really being as crazy, and it really starts out quite tame. Like in the same way, like in Act 1 is very much focused around Vi and Powder and like their and their friend group. So in the first act, you really don't get too much of it. You really just get
all
Jace.
Jace.
It's really just Jace
Yeah.
and his kind of moving his exploration, I guess, like with the Hex Tech, and like it wraps up like with his discovery of it. So it really picks up in like Act 2 when you see Jace kind of go more from this inventor and this really like idealistic kind of person to this more kind of realistic politician that he's being pushed towards.
Yeah.
He's being pushed towards the limelight because he's become this super big figure that everybody basically wants to just use.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up being kind of just a big dumb jockey pawn.
Yeah.
By
He's a
the
bit
end,
hot-headed. He's like too hot-headed to really handle it. When he ends up, yeah.
I mean, really, you can't blame him.
No, because he's in a tough situation.
And he's like not a politician by trade, right?
Yeah.
Like in the show, he's just an inventor who wants to help people. And so I feel like when you're a passionate person in any regard, you're very easy to manipulate people towards their ends. And Mel gets her little talons in there, bro, and just puppeteers the shit. Like he even tells him as much to his face, saying, you know, because there's that whole scene in the opera or whatever where she's like, you know, you got to be careful about those people. They're talking here, they're scheming there, whatever. Everybody has an agenda. She doesn't say it, but including
obviously her too.
Obviously her as well, right? So,
Right.
but that just goes right over Dum Dum's head. He just goes, and then the next scene they're fucking. So who really got the wool pulled over his eyes?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I guess. Did you like the Piltover? Did you find the Piltover stuff? Because like the Piltover stuff sort of focuses on the politics and like the interperson, like the interactions.
Did I like it as much as the stuff
council,
is on?
Yeah, like did you like it as much as the stuff is on? I think
I
it plays
thought
a good
Piltover
role.
looked cooler than Zon.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like visually, as we've already said, very cool city.
Like future steampunky.
Very cool shit. But do I like all the? I mean, I dig because I mean I guess I'm kind of a sucker for that. Like, ooh, like what's going on behind the scenes, right? Like all that kind of shit. But was it as like dope as the Zon stuff? No, but like it was cool in its own right. Yeah. I'm excited for where they might go with Mel's mom. What's her name? I don't even know what her name is.
I can't remember her name, but yeah, like Mel's
black
mom
chick
is from Noxus, and we're obviously this is going to play a big role in our future seasons of like they want to come in and just run over Zon essentially and make Piltover like in control.
Yeah,
which is going to be very interesting to see unfold.
I wonder where, just like as an aside, because I'm talking about Piltover, I wonder where we'll see this relationship between Violet and Jinx go, because like if that's the move of like Noxus, like the enemy of my enemy is
there you go.
Like,
maybe we're teaming up again, and I gotta say
I wouldn't hate it at all.
Seeing those two fight at full power
side by
together
side
would be pretty sick, because they kind of get a taste of that in the end too, but they're not at full power, right? Because Vi's gloveless.
We need a time skip. Yeah, another time skip.
I think overall the Piltover stuff is all it's all pretty good. I think you said that you don't like Jace by the end, which I think is like fair. I think it's like by design. You mean in like the way that they kind of intend for you to not like him?
I think that we'll come back around to Jace because I think he's gonna.
He's lost his way a little bit.
Exactly. What I kind of see happening. I mean, obviously he's about to get fucking blown up, and we'll see kind of who survives.
Yeah, he's dead. Actually,
he's dead.
Everyone in that room died.
Nobody has plot armor in this show because there's not a game where there's real characters outside of it that Craig has told me about them and who may or may not die. I'm not upset, so I'm not going to tell you who has plot armor, Jace. Anyways, so obviously this whole thing's about to get blown up, and like literally our whole world is about to get blown up, right? And he already foreshadowed how I'm not a wartime leader. I don't know how to. And like I think he's gonna fucking I think either A, Mel will die and he'll see right through her mom's like bullshit, or B, he'll wise up and be like, yo, I gotta like learn how to run shit, and like he'll like learn how to like lay the hammer down a little bit. No pun intended, as he literally has a hammer.
It's definitely implied that the whole we're not gonna use hex tech as weaponry because that's bad. That's going out the window.
Like,
it's all gonna be weaponry now.
Like,
right?
nigga, you're already making weapons for like shits and gigs.
It's gonna be weapons now.
Yeah,
I think the Piltover stuff is kind of what's gonna be carried on now for the rest. Like the other stuff, like as we move forward, that's probably what's gonna be the main focus. Because for the most part, a lot of it through these first 3 acts is just politics, This is the politics and the crumbling of their kind of
their reign zone.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say, can we for just a moment reference how what the fuck is that short little dude's name again?
Heimerdinger.
Heimerdinger got fucking done so dirty.
That one
hurt, dude.
Especially when Jace did it
with the fucking vote and just that scene where it's like it's all dark and just a light on everybody being like, yeah, get this guy out of here, you fucking boomer.
Here's the reality too. There's no way Heimerdinger isn't completely 100% right in everything he's saying. He says it way too many. I've seen it before. I've been through it. I lived through it. And everyone's like, nah, it's fine. Yeah, obviously he's going to be right. Like, obviously we're going to see what happens when you tamper with magic.
Victor.
Yeah.
We're about to see it,
I
feel like.
Let's talk about Victor, man.
Okay.
I think he's
going to turn evil.
Sickest. You think he's gonna turn evil?
I do.
That's my
prediction. As someone who
as a player of the game, I don't know. As I say,
how that goes, I know. There we go again. Ruining my fucking.
In fact, he is evil. He's an evil wizard. That's what he becomes. He transforms into a wizard.
I feel like you're lying to me.
I'm lying to you.
Yeah, I feel like he's actually a very good guy. He's a fucking good wizard. He's a mage.
I don't know about that.
He's a neutral person. He might be good. He might be bad. He's got shades of gray in his
history. Do you think he's gonna go pure evil? Hey.
Well, it was already fucking hinted at with the whole like when you start messing with magic and these magic.
Well, and he starts messing with the shimmer. Right, he takes the shimmer in his leg. It kind of, I think that stuff. I thought all this stuff was really interesting because that was like one of the few things that they show in the show for like one of the main characters that doesn't really get a full explanation of where he's even at. Like, what did we really know what was going on with Victor? Like his arm or his hand and his leg has transformed into some weird thing.
It looks like
the
a robot.
hex core is all like living now because his blood is in there.
Yeah,
none of that was like. Like they don't have like the science for that. He's doing that all on his own. So it's kind of like it's really open ended of where he can take that now, which is kind of cool. I'm excited about that stuff, and I think Victor's like. Just as a character and like he's like this like pretty like well-intentioned really smart guy who's been just dealt a shit hand. He came from Zon. He's dealing with some sickness. He's gonna die. He's literally on death's door and he's trying to like do some really high level scientific work right before he passes. And I think he's just like he's awesome. He's desperate in his situation, but he's trying to make. And it's like he and Jace both talk about how they lost their way.
Yeah,
I think all that stuff is. I don't know. All that stuff was really interesting and good. It's a nice addition to the main stuff that's going on.
You remind me of another one of my not so favorite parts of the show. Also,
interesting.
Which was, I guess, just like the overall lack of conclusion. Which I know they want to set up season 2. And maybe this is just my fucking bone to pick with Netflix, I guess, in general.
Well, it's shows now.
Shows now,
how they do it,
right? Yeah. Like with all these streaming services and whatnot, where it's like we got to throw forward to the next season for you to keep coming back. So it's like you end up with like Victor literally had no idea how like he ended up. Like,
not very satisfying.
Like didn't even show him in the end of like where we're at, as you just said. Heimerdinger. Like you kind of got a little bit of a sense for with like him and Echo, right? The best conclusion we got were between like Jace, Mel. I'm not sure if she's gonna come back or not. Violet and then Jinx.
Yeah.
That's the most solid one that we got. But aside from that, it's a lot of just like, well, I don't know. Like we'll see what happens when like after the war starts, which will be like again. I hope they open up with that same energy during the war of like, shit, we are stepping into a whole different vibe once again. Shit's dark.
Realistically, where we're gonna pick up here is gonna be like not long after.
I don't.
We might even pick up in like the rubble of the explosion. Like I don't know if we're gonna see because like now everything is moving. I do agree with you. It is annoying when they set up a lot of stuff and it's like, all right, some things we get resolutions on, a lot of things we don't. Come back next year for wait a year to find out what happens. I agree. They should have done a little bit more with Victor, but it's obviously going to get there.
But that was kind of my biggest like issues with it were like that, and I guess the like Echo thing. But aside from that, again, I think that the show was very well done. I guess
we can probably wrap it up.
As I said, we talk about most things.
So
sorry.
In review of our review, super sick characters, great animation, great storytelling, attention to detail. You got great voice acting. You got a plot that is pretty I will actually say this unironically, seamlessly comes together. All of these different plot lines are actually woven very well. They play into each other very well.
And again, like nothing feels forced. Like even the whole interaction between like Jason and like Violet, not forced. And like they didn't really interact aside from like those two, like the Piltover and Zahn never met. Sorry, just want to add that.
This is something I kind of just thought of, but like there's this thing where like you see all these plot lines coming up where they're introducing more and more characters. It's like it's always really exciting on screen when two characters that are from two different plot lines converge and they have like their interaction. Like the Caitlyn and Vi thing coming together when Caitlyn first goes to this prison. It's like just so exciting. You're like, oh, she's going to get Vi.
Exactly.
And they're going to be like, it's just exciting. Exactly. Like, it's exciting to see because it's like you know what they're each individually all about. And you're like, well, this is going to be really interesting to see how they play together now. I think So, what do you think of Caitlyn, actually, before we do wrap up? Just curious. I felt like she was kind of weak.
Definitely kind of weak sauce whack juice. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, she's a lead character as well.
Oh, my God.
She's got a big
another person
gun.
with fucking plot armor, blah blah blah. No, but I'm excited to see what happens to her. And also, as an aside, something we didn't talk about at all, the fucking sheriff, the classic, fucking corrupt police officer.
Yeah, the enforcer
classic
guy.
motif. He also kind of sucked, but they made him endearing with like the whole kind of daughter thing.
Look at you're making my mind think about so many things.
I know,
just remembered
and we have to wrap. But
one more thing that I didn't like.
No, not allowed. I'm cutting you off. You had your one.
All right, fine.
Okay, go.
But there's just a scene where like, okay, so Silco. When I was talking about Silco being like not the generic cartoony evil guy, the scene that just pissed me, that rubbed me the wrong way, man, was when he goes to visit the enforcer.
Yep.
And it's like he's making a threat. It's like, I'm here with your kid. I'm like, whatever. It's like, okay, threat done. We totally get it. I'm like, that's cool. He's there. He's like showing him like, I know where you fucking live, motherfucker. You know,
exactly.
I'll be here
I'm here playing with your daughter. Yeah.
But then he like does that weird thing to the daughter where he like, I can't remember if he like tips over her.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
you're just an asshole.
Yeah. Now you are just an asshole. You were like this complex evil guy that had good motives and all this stuff, and now it's like you're kind of just a jerk.
Oops.
That was cheesy as hell, not necessary. Very small detail, does not affect the show at all. But those are like the areas where it's like occasionally they show their hand with a little bit of cheesy stuff. I think the blue flare is another example.
I think they have to sometimes, or else it wouldn't be a show.
Yeah, and it's where the age group it fits in is like teen and upwards, kind of. You know, like the older teenager could enjoy this show pretty easily.
For sure.
So I think they're gonna have to do a little bit for them. You know?
Yeah.
Anyways,
for you, my friend, I have 4 things that I want from you because I think we have time for it.
That's a lot of
things. We're doing 4 things each.
Okay.
Rating out of 10.
Okay.
This is gonna be an internet. I'm gonna start a new trend for an internet review show right now. Right now.
10? Okay.
Right now. So rating out of 10. Something that's positive, something that's negative.
Okay.
And something that you're looking forward to. Maybe not for everyone, but for coming up. Like, what are you looking forward to come out of the show? So that's 4 things. Go.
Okay. Rating out of 10, I'm just going to give it, I think I've kind of flip-flopped around with this. 9.0 out of 10.
Shit.
And
damn. That's a good score.
I'd honestly, I would say that like Act 1 for me is probably a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
I think Act 3
is
like a 9.5.
Okay, yeah.
And Act 2 is like an 8.5.
Okay,
and that all kind of converges into the 9 out of 10.
Did you do the math on if that actually adds up to 9.0?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I'm just guesstimating.
We should fact check it after. But
what were the other things you wanted? Something you liked?
Disliked, and look forward to.
Yeah, because I think the thing that I liked the most about this show is that it actually you could tell how much they cared about making something good. Like they looked at every single avenue and made sure that they were up to snuff on everything. They weren't slacking. They really didn't slack on anything. There's like fumbles, but like they had intentions across the board of making a very tight, well-written show. Super sick. Things I didn't like were mostly just coming down to like the few cheesier aspects of it. And then I guess sort of what we discussed of like certain elements not being as fleshed out as they could have been. And it's like whether or not we got our favorite things fleshed out, it's up in the air. You know, I wouldn't see more of Echo for sure. Would have been cool. What's the last thing?
What are you looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to seeing when they bring in some characters from Noxus.
Okay.
And we see a war start.
Nice.
And I really, really, really am most of all excited to see what this Singed guy does. Singed is from the show. He's the evil
got you.
scientist guy that works for Silco.
That we got a little bit of.
Yeah, you start to see him doing some kind of weird stuff where he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna inject you with this. I don't really care what you want. Like you're getting better, but here's your and he's like kind of a little
evil,
apathetic. He's not even like evil. It's just like
Doesn't give a
emotionless
fuck.
and is like gonna do what he thinks is best. I'm really excited to see what he comes up with because he's the one making all like the shimmer into stuff. Like he's the one doing all of that. So like I want to see what that evolves into.
Creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Absolutely fuck me.
So what are your and then what are
My
your
4
things? Yeah.
Okay, my rating we're going at 10, I guess. I'm gonna give it an 8.8. 8.8.
Nice.
The reason why I enjoyed it. I don't have specific reasons. I don't have specific act 1, 2, and 3
That's
like
just
you.
the level you enjoyed it.
That's just the level. It's an 88%. That's like very, very. That's a solid. That's a hard A. Hard A on the grade scale. Don't need an A plus. 8.8 out of 10. What I enjoyed. A piece of me wants to just goof off these next 3 and just
do whatever you want, man.
Okay, Jace's hammer.
First review show.
Hey, Jace's hammer. I'm gonna get way more specific than you did. I'm not getting general.
You liked his hammer, eh?
His hammer was very sick. I didn't like the
really
gloves
cool.
as much. The hammer, very sick, and also kind of I guess what I'm looking forward to seeing him use that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Hammer, very dope. And in general, I just loved obviously just the writing of the show. That was probably my favorite part. Just like all the storylines, they made sense. I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat the entire ride.
Yeah.
Thing I didn't like Silco's eye. Didn't like
stinky putrid little eye.
Didn't like the whole little fucking taser to the eye thing that kept happening.
What is he doing there?
I don't know.
Is he like draining?
That's
like,
why I didn't like it.
Out
So
of
I didn't like it.
something?
That's
It's
why
like,
I didn't
why doesn't
like
it ever
it.
heal?
It wasn't explained. Nothing happened.
Yeah,
I thought maybe he was getting a little. It just looked like a painful fucking eye drop. Didn't like it.
I will say
could have done without it
it's annoying. He's dead now. We don't even get to know
at all.
We'll never know how he ended up with like the void eye.
None of that was explained.
Yeah.
Silco's eye, my biggest drop.
Okay, wow.
So maybe like you know how to do like tomatoes and like rotten tomatoes on like rotten tomatoes. Maybe like apples and like apple cores. So my apple was Jace's hammer, and my apple core.
Your rotten apple core.
My rotten. Eaten through apple core was Silco's eye. Very fitting.
Okay.
Very, very, very gross depiction.
And what are you most excited for?
My apple seed. What I'm most excited to kind of see grow.
Yeah. You're asking.
So I'm
me?
just keeping on this metaphor.
I got you.
Apple
I was like,
seed.
are you telling me that's what you? Yeah.
Apple seed.
Your apple seed.
The Heimerdinger and Echo. Fleshing out plot lines. And obviously I want to see this like war, because who doesn't love fucking seeing shit explode and cool fight scenes and all that good shit. I'm more excited to see kind of those things fleshed out. Because again, they're very dope characters. Echo especially,
we need more for him to be cool.
We just need more for him to be cool. And Heimerdinger, because again, I just love a good wise man who's like, hey man, I mean not like the man part, a good wise character who happens to be a man who's like, yo dude, don't do this, and then gets kind of shit on by everybody.
Yeah,
fucking done so dirty.
Cool. Okay, well, guys, this is our first review ever that we've ever done.
First person last.
Like this. We're gonna be learning. I like doing this. I could talk about this stuff all day. I mean, Arcane's still a little tough because there's a lot. Like it's a very dense plot, even though it's only 9 episodes.
We did talk about 9 episodes.
Yeah,
we did talk about 9 hours
of
of content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So we're gonna do movies and stuff too. If you have suggestions for what you'd like to hear us talk about next, we're really open to anything. I watch a lot of artsy movies and sort of more in the film world. Anthony also is willing to watch those. I've heard. So if that's
we
what
shall
do,
see.
Or if you want us, I mean, we're probably gonna do some movies coming up, like perhaps the new Spider-Man movie.
Probably, and by
I'm not a huge fan of Marvel,
perhaps,
so it'd be good.
He means for sure.
For sure.
He means for sure we're going to be watching that.
Yeah. Give us your feedback. Let us know what we did wrong. Let us know what we did well. Go check out our other show, an internet show, where we mostly just goof around. Okay? It's not like this. This was serious for us. Extremely serious for us. Look at that face. Look at that serious face.
I'm so angry right now. I'm just waiting for you to finish. So
you got something
to
say?
So I can tell you why.
Okay, give me a few more minutes.
It's
then.
a pin.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
we're waiting for. No,
Go
it's
ahead.
a pin. So go. Finish. No.
I'm pretty much
finish
done.
Finish the
I'm
plugs.
pretty much done.
Okay, you want to hear me on a fucking plug?
Yeah.
This is usually my part of the show where I get to be like, oh, go and follow us on TikTok and go do the Instagram. Go look at our other show. We have another show called The An Internet Show. It's not. It's just called An Internet Show. Go and watch all that.
I'm trampling on your stuff.
This is my because you know. Do you remember how you said who wants to open it up? And I said you should open it up. And now
I'll close it down as well.
That's usually how it exactly. You're taking away that. You're taking away all my autonomy that I have.
Okay, I see.
Everything that I bring, everything that people look forward to hearing come from this side of the table. I don't accept it. I don't.
Well, where do we go from here then?
Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna pick how we close it out from here. I'm gonna give editor Craig a task to do. So rather than a cool little fade to black or something like that, I think that what we should do is while we're talking, having this conversation, this argument, we should just cut to black, just finish the episode. So what I'm saying is I don't want you to have any more input on how this show's going to go. I want to decide what comes next, and we're going to wrap right now, or maybe you're going to...
It's already wrapped.
It's already probably done at this point. We're probably already done talking. I'm just going to keep on monologuing until it kind of finishes, until the show's over. It might be now. It might have been 30 seconds ago. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because that's on...